So I got to hand it to the folks over at Street Fight, because last night they made me compete with alcohol. Now they're making me compete with the sunshine and like the coma associated with eating those donuts or whatever the hell they were. So thanks, guys. I'll definitely be back. I'm just kidding. You know, I always believe in playing to quality, not quantity. So you guys are quality. The rest of the schleppers outside, you know what? They can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. You know, this is about the next part. This is the walk, right? This is how do you get a win. Assuming the education part has been put into place, you kind of know where you want to be playing, you know what kinds of technologies have been prioritized and are most relevant or resonant to your business, either in terms of disruption or in terms of opportunity. This is about figuring out how to work with the startups. So this is actually a real road sign in Africa. And for those of you that don't know where the problem is, you have a problem, come speak to me afterwards. But it made me think of kind of like the whole startup ecosystem. So it kind of begins this way, right? Which is, hey, did you hear about the story of the two guys in San Francisco who could never get a cab or a car when they needed one, and so they started Uber? Or the surfer dude, which clearly I'm not, because I wouldn't refer to, if I was a surfer, as a surfer dude, who couldn't, he wanted to capture his surfing experience from his perspective, and he wasn't able to, and so he started the world's fastest and best-selling camera, GoPro. Or for those of you that weren't here last night, you hear about the guy who always needed to go and take a whiz during the movie, but didn't want to miss the good parts. So, or, you know, he didn't want to miss the boring parts, sorry, so he started Run P. You know, I was thinking about it, and all startup success stories, maybe even your startups, begin the same way. It begins with a pain point. It begins with understanding a point of friction or an inefficiency. So often you find startup founders come from pain. And the pain doesn't really have to hurt as much as it is they're curious, they're disgruntled, they're frustrated, they're intense. And that curiosity allows them to create sometimes ideas that can change the world. So I looked at this and I said, well, wait a second. Don't enterprises, don't companies, don't brands ask the same questions? They do. They're very good at putting together creative briefs. They're very good at telling the world that consumers think they suck, that they're putting lipstick on a pig, that people don't watch TV anymore, that millennials despise them. They're very good at being able to talk about their lost market share. So the question is, if brands and executives think the same way that startup founders do, why don't they end up with a technology solution? Why don't they end up with a startup? Why do they just end up with a real-time tweet or another tagline or another Super Bowl commercial? So I asked the question, what if? What if Kodak acquired Instagram? Might they have survived? What if Blockbuster had invested in Netflix? And they did have a chance to invest in Netflix, but they chose not to. And I don't want to spoil it for you, you know, in terms of telling you how it all ends, but it doesn't end well for Blockbuster. And the thing is that there's so many of these examples, but this isn't theory, because right now we're seeing larger companies investing and or acquiring younger, dynamic startups. GM invested $500 million into Lyft. Runtastic was acquired by Adidas. Under Armour acquired MapMyRun and MapMyFitness. Well, the fact is every single company can play here. Every company has the ability to figure out how to partner with startups. I love this example, Dollar Shave, because I don't think Gillette saw Unilever coming. I'm pretty sure that the Dollar Shave people went into a Gillette boardroom and said, let's work together, and Gillette said, there's the door, we're a monopoly, basically, we're not interested. But I don't think that Procter & Gamble saw their arch rival Unilever coming for their lunch. So the fact is, these brand startup collaborations can come at any point in time, and they can truly transform an industry. And the point to begin is, as they all say in the classics, follow the money. The fact is, most startups will never, ever get through the valley of death. If you think about it, right? Startups have ideas, but no money, and big brands have a lot of money and no ideas. Maybe I should say no idea as well. It seems like the right marriage has been made in heaven. Ideas and money, right? We have something you want, you have something that we want. So how can these collaborations happen? Well, it's very simple. Again, crawl, walk, run. The crawl is a pilot. You get a win by doing a test and learn, and then scaling with success. A walk is some kind of acceleration, a strategic partnership, a multi-month deal. And then, of course, the run is M&A, invest and or acquire. You don't have to test and learn when you realize this could be the goose that laid the golden egg. But I just want to be very clear. This is not a charity case. This is not a handout to the poor, struggling entrepreneurs, the small startups that are fighting to make ends meet. Because these startups, if you remember last night's presentation, are the ones that are putting you out of business. If you ask a CEO what they care about, they will tell you three things. They will talk about growth, they will talk about customer intimacy, and they'll talk about competitive advantage. This is ultimately another crawl, walk, run, another way to tie a startup value proposition to a real business case and a real business problem. I'll just give you three examples. In growth, I talk about better, cheaper, faster. If you, the startup, can bring them the same eyeballs for less, or for the same amount of money, more eyeballs, more clicks, more leads, more whatever it is that they value, you're in the game and you have a shout. So in the better, cheaper, and or faster category, this is a startup called Curbside. Curbside is basically, they've created an entire new distribution model where you don't have to actually set foot into the store, the retail store anymore. You can drive your car curbside and pick up your groceries, or pick up your, in this case, CVS, your drugs, whatever the case may be. What's so interesting about this, it's all obviously mobile and digitally driven. Imagine the cross-sell, upsell, and impulse possibilities. Under customer intimacy, any way that we can offer our customer utility or service, make their lives better, is something that corporate executives are going to care about. This is a startup called Ovuline that actually through big data and through AI were able to create an algorithm that is accurate to the 99th percentile, to the point where they can tell a woman when she's ovulating literally within minutes. As in, stop what you're doing now, leave the boardroom, go home and make a baby. And we actually, my old company, Evolution, put Ovuline in touch with Gerber. Clearly, Gerber, baby food, were looking to connect with moms or moms-to-be, etc. And then finally, disruption, competitive advantage. This is Stephen Chen. He, the first time we met him and we put him in front of Purina, he was 23 years old and he was wearing a suit that was 4 sizes too big. And he actually created this amazing little product. Your dog or your cat pees into a cup, you shake the cup, you'll notice all my examples involve urine. Like the president, I enjoy urine. I'm in LA, I figure if I can't get away with that, I can't get away with anything. Hopefully those of you that didn't like that joke are still sleeping. And then you shake it, and you can see 40 different points. You can get 40 different indicators of your pet's health in real time, and that, of course, can be sent to a veterinarian. So you can see how startups can either better, cheaper, faster utility and service, or ultimately create competitive advantage, barriers to entry and exit. I think my message for you today is whether you are a startup or a big brand, whether you're a startup looking to sell to big brands or sell out to big brands, recognize that this is not actually David versus Goliath. You guys are partners. You're partners in crime, and you have more in common than you actually think. You really are mirrors of one another. So what you see in the slide is that whatever startups talk about, for example, startups they talk about pivoting. Well, you need to be able to act in the age of improv. You need to be more agile. You need to be able to, as that Mike Tyson quote goes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So, brands care about competitive advantage, startups care about first move advantage. But the one thing that you guys actually have in common, that is the same word across the board, is scale. Startups need to get to critical mass, to economies of scale. They need to get big fast. They need to be number one in their category. And of course, big brands care about hitting their quarterly earnings, critical mass, economies of scale, reach and frequency. I just want to give you one example that shows how beautiful this marriage can be. QuickBooks were looking to basically send out a message. We care about the SMB. We care about the small and medium business. So what did they do? Intuit's QuickBooks, they bought a Super Bowl spot, and then they gave it away to one of their SMB clients. And of course, what better way for Intuit to actually help Death Wish Coffee grow than by putting them on the world's biggest stage? So ultimately, the parting message here is that startups and brands collaborating, it isn't just common sense. It isn't just good sense. It's good business sense. And ultimately, if you go into the relationship recognizing your role as a partner in crime and an equal, tremendous things are possible. Every brand has a startup soulmate. Every startup has a brand soulmate. Hopefully yours is here today. So thank you very much, and I will see you for presentation number 4 in a few hours.